Hello YouTube, back once again with my Game of Thrones review, and here we are with the review of the entirety of Season 5, and, first let me just say this, I can't really give a score to a season of Game of Thrones because television standards, it's a 5 out of 5, all of them. I mean, for television standard, these are just wonderful, wonderful, it's just fantastic. So all I can really do is rank the seasons. So just know that's what I'm going to do at the end. I'm just going to rank the seasons from what I thought was the worst to best season, and just quick heads up. And but first, so here we are, Game of Thrones season 5. First, you gotta give the creators of the show some credit here because they made this season far more interesting than the books are. Because the thing with the book, I know a lot of people complain that this felt like such a boring season compared to season 4. To be fair, though, here's the thing. You gotta remember, season 4 was the bottom half of book 3, a Storm of Swords, and the thing about the third book, it essentially was the climax of the first two books, Game of Thrones and A Clash of Kings. That was basically its climax. And basically, books 4 and 5 are basically just set up and build up for what's going to be the climaxes of the Winds of Winter, and I think it's A Hope for Spring. Is that what the seventh book's title is? So basically, you just gotta remember, the fifth season was essentially just build up, and they did actually add a lot to this season that's not in the books to try to make it more interesting for viewers. So you gotta give the creators of the show a lot of credit on that ground. So just keep in mind, the fourth and fifth book, they do run parallel with each other. It's not like grand things happen. It is essentially George R. R. Martin just had to cut. There were so many characters at this point. He just had to cut the amount of the characters in half, put them between the two books, and just like the two books run parallel, and just have it being the characters setting up the next two books essentially. So keep that in mind, that the creators did all they could to make this as interesting as possible. So let's just go through. I'm gonna just be going through this season area by area and the goods and bad of each area. So first, let's talk about King's Landing. First, let's talk about what I thought was the first great thing about King's Landing. The addition of Jonathan Pryce as the High Sparrow to the cast. Jonathan Pryce was just wonderful, I thought, as the High Sparrow. He was just so I just love how his followers were pretty creepy, but I just like him. I just you could believe why someone would follow him because he always just seemed like such a nice and just such a fulfilled guy, and just especially in King's Landing where everything sucks essentially. That I really did think Jonathan Pryce was just a really good character. I love he wasn't a straight up villain. He was just a man who believed in this religion and how everyone should be under the same laws of the religion. So I really did. So I thought Jonathan Pryce was just a wonderful addition to the cast. That I loved the whole plot about how Cersei essentially creates her own destruction with the High Sparrow and the religion, just how she basically just thinks that since she's the queen, she's basically making a deal with Jonathan Pryce when the High Sparrow, when she gives all his followers weapons and lets them take over King's Landing, and essentially just thought, oh, because I did this for you, gonna bring down Marjorie and make it that I'm basically still the definitive queen. And but no, just I love the fact that Jonathan Pryce was no, you're still under the same laws as everyone else. I am not here for a power grab. I am here because I want to put everyone under the same religion essentially and same beliefs. So, and Cersei does get screwed because of that. I really love the whole idea that Cersei is basically the creator of her own destruction. That, and finally the last major great thing that happened in King's Landing was Lena Headey's performance during her shaming scene. I said in my review of the episode, if I want to see more of that, just an A+, unbelievable performance for the fact she could barely speak, just how far she was willing to go. If she does not get nominated for an Emmy for her performance in that episode, I'm gonna be so pissed off, because probably the best piece of acting of this season was Lena Headey during that scene. So A+ performance from her. The bad, anything else that happened, anytime it was just anyone debating power or all the stuff with Marjorie and her brother and all that, and it's kind of cool to see grandmother Tyrell come back, but really not much. None of it was really that interesting or gripping. You're just kind of yeah, whatever, I don't care that much. So everything else was pretty meh, who cares? You just felt like they were just stalling plot at that point. So That was the good and bad King's Landing. Next, let's go to Arya and what she was doing in her House of Black and White on with her House of Black and White. The good of this first, let me say, it was cool to see the faceless assassin guy. That actor's guy being really creepy and weird. I'll give him a lot of props for that. Arya assassinating that guy. I forget what his name is. The one who she thinks killed the Swordmaster. I am still convinced the Swordmaster must still be alive because you never saw him die, and in Game of Thrones, that rarely means someone is dead if you didn't see them die or see like the aftermath of their death. Yeah, no, Arya killing that guy was freaking awesome. Just how much she basically just mutilates him, just stabbing him in both eyes, just stabbing him in the chest multiple times before finally killing him. That was freaking awesome. And the fact that got to cross a name off her list, because of what she did, that was awesome. Alright, so that was really cool, and I did like how the plotline ended with the whole thing, like how the faceless assassin is not an actual person, kind of like an idea. I thought that was done visually was the visual of that was wonderfully done, like the whole thing, like how first like he kills himself and then like the girl that was always there like turns into the faceless assassin, like, and basically just showing he was never really a person, kind of just like this like spectral idea to a certain degree. I thought it was really cool and really well visualized. So that was great. What was the bad? This and pretty much everything else is like, because like the faceless assassin wasn't around that much. The only thing that was cool about the assassination was her actually killing the guy, and the whole spectral thing only happened at the end. Everything else was just so boring. All this stuff Arya's just talking to that creepy girl was pretty dull. Like when she everything else she did there was I just thought was so boring. This was hands down I thought the dullest part of the season. I always dreaded cutting back to Arya this season, so I thought that was by far the worst was Arya's story this season in the House of Black and White. That's what was going on with Arya. Next, the Wall. The Wall was pretty great this season. Good. I love Jon being thrown into the position of power, like as the new Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, and how he was put in how he basically just had to was forced then just to like make all these choices that like he knew like it was not gonna make everyone happy, and like I made some people despise him. Like I love even like when he says like we need the Wildings to try and fight the White Walkers, and then like that kid whose family was killed by the Wildings was just like, please tell me this is just a trap to try to kill them, and Jon's like, no, I'm sorry, we really do need them. I really liked how it just show how tough a position Jon was in, and like how he just tried his best to keep the Night's Watch together. I thought was really great and really gripping and really interesting from beginning to end. So all the stuff with Jon was really awesome. Oh, that and the Maester, that's pretty amazing that they actually were able to shoot a death scene before the actor actually died. So sad that actor died. He did such a great job in this show. My only guess is that he died before they were before they shot the moment in episode 2 when someone just kind of awkwardly says like, hey, where's the Maester? It's like, oh, he's sick right now. My guess is that was like the last scenes they were gonna shoot with him for the season before the actor died. All I can say that guy did a wonderful performance during his 5-season run on Game of Thrones. It's so sad to see him go. But yes, it was so sad. I really loved it. Was really sad parting ways with that character. Really nice and pretty great that they actually did get a match to shoot a death scene before he died. So that was great. And it was all the stuff with Sam, all the bromance stuff with Sam and Jon. Always great to see those two's bromance, how much these two truly care about one another, and that and the fact that Sam finally got with Gilly. That was nice. I was just like, Sam, you deserve some happiness after all the shit you've been through. It was nice to see Sam get some happiness in his life. So that was nice. And finally, the last great plus of the stuff down in the Wall this season, up north in the Wall, was the battle scene against the White Walkers in the Wilding territory. That was freaking awesome. The stuff with the White Walkers, I wouldn't say it hit the same high note as the invasion of Castle Black in season 4, but still really cool action sequence, really great. It was just so cool seeing Jon realizing how screwed they are against the White Walkers. I thought that was awesome. What was the bad of the Wall this season, though? this is not something the writers could avoid. It's just there was no way they could get around this, no matter how hard they tried. Well, what because like it ends with like the big climax to like and send off of the season is John getting stabbed by the Night's Watch, and I will say that was a cool kind of heartbreaking thing. Just like how like even how the kid like who John made his steward like just even stabs him, like I thought was really nice, was really sad but and heartbreaking. But the problem is we kind of all, even people who don't read the books or didn't hear the famous George R. Martin interview where like they say like, so how did you feel about killing Jon Snow? It's just like, whoever said Jon Snow is dead. Everyone knows Jon Snow isn't dead. There is no way he can be dead. It does really feel like George R. Martin is so hell-bent on releasing the sixth book before the sixth season, is so he can say what happens to Jon first before the show can. So, really, no way the writers could get around that, but still, it kind of loses the impact a bit of Jon being stabbed by by the Night's Watch. So, but still, it was still effective on the grounds. It was the Night's Watch that stabbed him. So, considering, I love, like someone brought this up, considering how much shit Jon has survived, the fact that it's his own men that end up like pretty much doing him in is a really sad and interesting thought. So, but Stuff the Wall was freaking awesome this season. I love cutting back to the wall this season. Next up, what's going on with Stannis and his group this season? Stannis, this was an interesting season for Stannis because this season showed that there is a man under that cold stone exterior he made for himself that shows like, basically it shows like no caring at all for anyone, but they show he does have a heart, like that beautiful scene when he's talking to his daughter and he basically just says, look, I love you, I'm proud of you, you're my daughter, and then nothing will ever change that. Just to flip it on the dime like that, just Stannis killing his daughter. It was a really effective one, I gotta say. I knew it was coming. It was one of those tests you can clearly see coming, but my God, was it still not shocking to see just hearing his daughter's screams of misery being burned at the stake. That was pretty damn effective, I gotta say. And it definitely did just kind of like destroy this character for a lot of people. But it did not feel like this was out of place. It did feel like this character would do this because he was just that desperate for victory. So that was pretty, all that stuff with Stannis. And quick note about Stannis, though, he's probably not dead. I know the last you see of him is Brienne, like, having her sword up near him and wanting to, saying, I'm going to kill you now. But come on, they cut away right before she swung her sword. I highly doubt he's dead because of that. So I can say Stannis probably not dead. So it'd be interesting to see if he is alive, which I'm pretty certain he must be. Why Brienne kept him alive. I want to see if there's a deep reason for that. Maybe because she just hates the Boltons so much. She wants his help to bring down the Boltons. So there's that, and only bad I can think of for Stannis this season was the stuff with the whole fact that his wife was so heartbroken, even committed suicide when her daughters killed. I was like, that felt very inconsistent with the character. Unlike Stannis, which I believe it was consistent with the character that he did burn his daughter alive, but he was heartbroken doing it. Basically lost like the rest of his humanity doing it. Like, Stannis' wife, I just felt like, no, you never seem like you would be very upset if your daughter was killed, because literally, go back to the second season, like, basically all their conversations between Stannis' wife was Stannis' wife being like, can we kill our daughter? And Stannis was like, if you dare touch her, I will murder you. So, I couldn't buy that. Moving on. So, that stuff with Stannis was pretty cool this season. I really liked the stuff with Stannis. Next we got to what was going down with Dorne. Dorne positives. I thought it was a pretty fun action sequence. I thought when they Bronn and Jaime first hit Dorne. Oh, that I gotta say, I really like Bronn and Jaime as traveling companions. I thought they were fun traveling buddies. But Bronn and Jaime, when they first reached Dorne and got in that action sequence with those random guys, I thought that was a fun action sequence, especially the part I thought was kind of darkly hilarious when the guy swings his sword and Jaime just raises his hand and it's his golden hand, so it gets just caught in, so the sword just gets caught in, and even Jaime looks confused for a moment and then just stabs the guy. That was a cool action sequence. That you gotta hear Bronn's beautiful singing voice. that actor's voice was just beautiful, and it was amazing hearing it this season. That was actually, and I thought that led to one of the funniest points of the season when Bronn is in the cell, like across from the Sand Snake, and Bronn just killing the time singing some beautiful tunes, and then one of the Sand Snakes is like, "Oh God, can you shove?" One of the other Sand Snakes like, "Ah, at least he's a good singer." That was pretty cool. The King of Dorne was freaking awesome. Just freaking awesome. I just love how he basically was like, how he was always like, basically saying to Oberyn's mistress, like, look, Dorne is awesome. Like, King's Landing sucks. Stop trying to make a war with them. And like, just how badass and powerful this guy could be. Like, even for the fact he was disabled, truly an FDR kind of feel. Just how awesome he was and how powerful he was and how likable he was. Oh God, the part when Bronn was gonna be punished was when they said Bronn had to be punished, and all at once they just punched Bronn across the face. That was freaking awesome, King of Dorne. I loved you. The Sand Snakes were a bit lame. There wasn't enough of them, but I did kind of like the batshit insane one who likes. I thought she was a truly batshit insane. The one who likes Bronn. Just their conversation with each other when Bronn's poisoned, and she's like, "Tell me I'm the most beautiful woman in the world." I thought that was enjoyably insane, and how the stuff in Dorne was, I thought, was pretty good and pretty surprising and pretty heartbreaking. Just Jaime, after everything he's went through, just to his daughter saying she's proud to be his daughter, and then just dying in his arms was pretty sad and heartbreaking. And so that was the positive Dorne. Was the bad Dorne's? Not nearly enough Dorne. You were barely in Dorne this season. Dorne seems so freaking awesome, like this place, and you barely were there. You barely got parts with the king or anything, or the Sand Snakes or anything like that. And it never really added it up to anything until like the last second when Jaime's daughter died, and not enough Dorne. I really wanted more Dorne this season. I was pretty pissed off by how little Dorne we got. So that was a negative. So that's my good and bad for Dorne. Then we have Meereen with Dany's group and Tyrion and Varys and all those guys. For the good of this part, I thought Jorah and Tyrion were cool, were good traveling buddies. I like how Tyrion basically kind of like how Tyrion kind of like realized like how he like was truly like hit like kind of rock bottom with his power, like how when he just starts insulting Jorah, and Jorah just basically just on apology just punches Tyrion across the face, and Tyrion being like, yeah, you know, like Tyrion kind of realizing like, yeah, I don't have any power left, do I? And I thought that was cool. I like Dany's conflict, like the whole fact like she was just having such trouble like trying to keep this state together. Like the only thing that seems like it could be something she really doesn't want, which is basically the Colosseum to be reopened. So I kind of like Dany's plight of like being very torn on that. Tyrion and Dany's conversation when Tyrion finally reached King's Landing. I mean Meereen. Oh, and just for a quick note, Tyrion has not reached Meereen in the book, so that was another plus. That was an example of the show trying to make the creators of the show trying to make the books a bit the material from the books a bit more interesting. Or let the conversation about power and like what we'll do to grab it, and how Tyrion's just like, why do you even want King's Landing? It kind of sucks. Like Meereen's pretty cool. Just stay in Meereen. Screw King's Landing. And it's also nice and kind of touching to see Tyrion kind of stand up for Ser Jorah, just saying like, look, I know Ser Jorah betrayed you, but he did keep you alive. He did keep you alive. Like, you probably would have been killed as a child if it wasn't for him. And he just did what he had to do to survive. Like, I like that. I really like the conversations they had. I did like the big trailer line Dany go, and she just says, I do not tend to change the wheel. I tend to break the wheel. I thought that was cool. So that was some fun conversations. That Grey Worm finally getting with I forget her name, Dany's main assistant translator woman. That was nice. It was just nice seeing Grey Worm getting some happiness. What a miserable life Grey Worm has had. It was nice seeing him get some happiness. So good for Grey Worm. It was nice seeing him being kind of happy for once. And the action scene with Grey Worm and that knight, the older knight from King's Landing, I keep forgetting the guy's name. That was a really cool action sequence. Not much to say. Just that was a cool action sequence. That was freaking awesome. How many Sons of the Harpies those two took down was freaking awesome. That and finally the major blitz, the climax in the Coliseum for these characters was just amazing. Just I think for any character's climax, for this season. I think this was probably the most interesting climax for any of the stories. Just I loved everything from the conversations like Danny, her future husband, and her lover, were having with each other. Were having with each other, basically about power and not to underestimate the little man was pretty cool. Then Sir Jorah fighting those guys was freaking awesome. Sir Jorah throwing this even I was like, what the hell for a moment, and then when you just realize that he saved Danny and Sir Jorah finally getting redemption was pretty awesome. And that when the dragon showed up and started setting people on fire, always cool to see the dragons and the rest of the action sequence when they were trying to fight their way out of the Colosseum, even Tyrion bringing one of the Sons of the Harpies down, that was pretty cool. So Colosseum was freaking awesome. Bad Danny flying away at the end, that wasn't the best effect this show has done. It looked kind of stupid. I was like, okay, I can clearly tell it's not really there when that happened. That and this also happened. The other issue was the fact this was put in episode 9, where basically an episode that was essentially the end of their story for this season. It felt like in episode 10, just when they cut back to it, was like, why am I watching? Why'd you have to cut back to them this episode? Nothing really. The only thing that was interesting is the whole idea now that Tyrion is now going to be the new leader of Meereen, which is pretty freaking awesome. So you guys see Tyrion in that much power. And the major problem with this, and it's just a major problem with the books, at this point, Tyrion, this is probably his lamest season for what's usually considered the best character in Game of Thrones. It was so sad to see him just basically doing nothing this season, instead of just being dragged around by different characters. So that was a pretty major problem. It's always best when Tyrion's in power and is able to just use his voice to manipulate the situation. So stuff with Tyrion was pretty lame, which is a bummer. Now, finally, the last story of the season. What was going down with Winterfell this season? Well, first, let's just say, Brienne and Pod together. I always love to see those two bonding with each other. I loved how they bonded even more this season. I still say there should be a spin-off show called The Many Adventures of Brienne and Pod, where they just travel around King's Landing. They just travel around Westeros solving mysteries, but I guess that will never happen. Always nice to see those two bonds, though. They're probably just so likable. I loved how Brienne started to open up to Pod. I thought that was great. So I really like that. Sansa becoming a power player. Sansa's probably come the furthest of any character in the. Well, probably Danny, but probably has come the furthest of most of the major characters of the show. Has just starting off and just someone who's completely manipulated to actually becoming a power player and manipulating people. That scene when basically Miranda's trying to basically scare Sansa, and Sansa's like, oh, you're in no position to try to make me fear you. You're so much weaker than I am. That was freaking awesome seeing Sansa stand up for herself. And Sansa and Sophia Turner was just great acting from beginning to end of this season when it came to her character. Ramsay's Ewan Riho was just as horrifying and unpleasant as ever. Just how evil he was just great. The stuff with Theon, I loved when Sansa first saw Theon, and Sansa wasn't oh my god, the last remaining members of my family is still alive. Oh god, come here, Theon. And no, Sansa's no, I hate you, Theon. You killed my brothers. I wish I could have tortured you the same way Ramses did. That was so dark and so heartbreaking. Just seeing Theon in tears, just basically being wanting to say I didn't kill them, but he just wasn't brave enough to say that. I thought was cool, and it was nice when he finally did say it, and it was great to see Theon redeem himself for Sansa at the end. I mean that ending when Sansa's trying to escape and then Sansa's trying to escape and then runs into Miranda. That kill Theon get on Miranda. That was probably the best kill of this season. I just said it was tears of laughter. Just when Theon just picks up her and just throws her off the rail. That was freaking awesome. That and Sansa essentially forgiving Theon and running away with him. That was great. I really want to see where those two are going to be starting the next season. I'll probably say that I'd say this is probably my favorite plot this season. This was probably, I think, this or The Wall was probably my favorite plot of the season. I was looking the most forward to cutting back to this season. So that was all great. The bad, well, okay, there was enough Brienne and Pod. I wanted to see more Brienne and Pod. I really loved those two together and how they were starting to like talk with each other, starting to really trust each other. I thought it was great. And then the other one, it's the huge one a lot of people talked about. Yeah, I'd say the rape scene went a bit too far. Should have just cut with you knowing it was happening and not just consistently hearing it for like a solid minute. I was like, oh god, I gave it a rewatch. I was like, yeah, this went too far. I gave the episode a rewatch, and my only thought was when it reached that like, this went a bit too far. I heard a thing that was Rotten Tomatoes the next day when it was just doing like the critics' consensus of the episode. Like, the critics were like, I think the acting and pacing and writing was really poor this episode. I don't think Game of Thrones can ever recover. I think we're under a sick delusion. The show's good. I was just like, shut up, stop bullshitting around, just cut the bullshit, just say, did the rape scene go too far for you? Because that is really just all that. It was not the acting, it was not the writing, it was just, did you just find this too offensive and too unpleasant? That's all that you could say, that if whether you thought this was good or bad or not. So, went a bit too far, but I would say, like I said, this or The Wall was probably my favorite plot lines this season. I was always looking most forward to coming back to these guys, so that's all I can say. Once again, though, now for final rating. Like I said, you can't really give a season of Game of Thrones anything but a 5, really, for television standards. It's just so unbelievably good. Just like, it does honestly feel like you're watching a movie every episode by episode. So all I can really do is rank the season. So, ranking the seasons from worst to best, I would say first, fifth, third, second, fourth. I would say from worst to best, the seasons, once again, are first, fifth, third, second, fourth. Still a wonderful season television. Still had great moments. But like I said, this did suffer from the issue that like the fourth and fifth books are considered the worst. But I know at least A Feast for Crows is considered the worst book of the series. So the fact that they had to use that as their jumping off point did kind of hurt the intrigue of the season. But hey, basically every character, though, where they left off with almost every character, I am super excited to see where things get going with season 6. YouTube, as always, please subscribe. I will see you next time. Okay, bye.